So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have, if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely...
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But
excuse me, what?
Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day so far. In today's video, we'll be going over the recent revelation that Mark Zuckerberg admitted to on Joe Rogan's podcast, where he stated that Facebook deliberately censored the Hunter Biden story leading up until the 2020 election, and we'll be going over that and a few other items. My name is Brian Barsoon. I upload YouTube videos daily. I'll link all my socials down below in the description, but let's hop right into this. So this article I have here is from the Daily Mail, and it's titled Kevin McCarthy leads GOP fury at Mark Zuckerberg and demands he testify before Congress following admission. So Kevin McCarthy is the GOP leader for the House of Representatives, and he's reacting to the story as well. And now Zuckerberg admitted that he changed the algorithm so the story would appear much further down people's news feeds on the site. And that's downranking or suppressing the story. It's a little bit different from what Twitter did, but so it was still available on the site, but it was just lower down on the feed. Facebook CEO said the FBI had warned him of potential Russian misinformation in the run-up to the election, and the comment sparked fury among Republicans who say the move may have cost Donald Trump the election. Now, obviously, hindsight is 2020. We don't know that for sure, but I'll going to pull up an article here in just a moment, which might contradict some of those statements, or it may not. I'll let you decide. But just taking a look here, Mark Zuckerberg has sparked outrage with his bombshell revelation that Facebook deliberately used an algorithm to suppress stories about the Hunter Biden's laptop in 2020 before the November election after an intervention by the FBI. And here's Kevin McCarthy's tweet about it. The FBI colluded with big tech to silence news stories weeks before the 2020 election in an attempt to control your access to information. Democrats in Congress have been intentionally ignoring the facts. When Republicans are back in charge, we will hold all of them accountable. Now, obviously, the midterms are coming up here in November in the USA, so it'll be interesting to see what's going on with that, with the results of that and what they will do. A lot of people are forecasting that they may take the House and possibly the Senate too, but it's still a couple months out from the recording of this video, so we'll see. But signs are leaning towards that. So if you ask me, though, I think the main thing they should be worrying about is Section 230 and having that repealed, so that these social media companies can't fall behind that. But I can make a separate video about that because it would make the video too long if I went into detail about that. But just look up Section 230 if you're not familiar with that. There's a couple other reactions. Ted Cruz made comments on it as well. But this is the other story that I wanted to mention as well. So having to do with this, and this is from the New York Post, which conveniently was the organization that got in trouble for revealing the story on Twitter. And they were the ones that got suppressed on Twitter, and they had their account removed. And then obviously subsequent months and years now, earlier this year, the New York Times did confirm that the story was real. So for anyone out there saying that the Hunter Biden laptop is not real, it's been confirmed by multiple outlets, including the New York Times. So there you go. But this story here, and this is from a poll. This was from yesterday. It's a poll. 79% say truthful coverage of Hunter Biden's laptop would have changed the 2020 election. It's a poll of 437 people, so moderate size. And these were people who were following either closely or somewhat closely the Hunter Biden story. So they didn't just poll people that had never heard about it. So they had to have some knowledge of the situation. So nearly 4 of 5 Americans who've been following the Hunter Biden laptop scandal believe that truthful coverage would have changed the outcome of the 2020 presidential election, according to a new poll. A similar percentage also said They're convinced that the information on the computer is real, with just 11% saying that they thought it was created by Russia. So even though the Times has come out and said that it's a real story, there's still 11% of people. So out of 437, probably about 40 or 50 people still say it was, Russian disinformation. So that just shows you the craziness that's going on with the media and the news surrounding the story. And and then said an even higher number, 81%, said U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland should appoint a special counsel to investigate matters related to the First Son's infamous laptop. So I'm sure those people probably believe that there's some bias for the head of the DOJ if he were to investigate it. Obviously, with the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid and everything going on with that, I could see their point there. And it's just very interesting that all those people would have changed their minds, and it probably could have influenced the election. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but, Biden did only win by a slim margin in a certain number of states. So if you have a few thousand here or there that would have, saw this story and maybe had thought otherwise and vote for the other person, could have made a difference. Whether or not it would have swayed the election for President Trump or former President Trump, that remains to be seen. But that's not the main point of this video, but I just wanted to mention this too, that it would have swayed a lot of people. And this is the headline that they came with, all the news that's fit to print once Biden is elected, because that's they did mention that in another story that they were going to investigate the Hunter Biden laptop, but they were going to wait until after the election. That was from an FBI whistleblowers that have come out recently. So in the podcast, he does talk about how he has the third-party fact checkers that Facebook implements whenever there's an issue with a news item. So separate to what he claimed about the FBI contacting them, they also have these third-party fact checkers that will corroborate and determine if the story is factual or not. So I just wanted to play a clip from that just so you can see his explanation of why he believes that they should have these fact checkers. Let's roll the clip.
So I think one of the things that our country and our government gets right is the separation of powers. So, one of the things that I tried to create is we created this oversight board. It's an independent board that basically we appointed people whose kind of paramount value is free expression, but they also balance that with things like when is there going to be real harm to others in terms of safety or privacy or other human rights issues. And basically that board, people in our community can appeal cases to when they think that we got it wrong. And that board actually gets to make the final binding decision, not us.
So it seems like Zuckerberg doesn't want to really take any responsibility for the news that's on his site. Creating this third-party, independent board, to me, in my opinion, is a deference and just not wanting to take responsibility on any of those decisions. He's the CEO of the company. He needs to be taking responsibility for what is being reported on his platform. And you can't just pass the mantle of responsibility to someone else, this third-party fact-checking group, because obviously we don't know. He tries to have good intentions when it comes to these third-party fact-checkers, but obviously they can be swayed and influenced, and as opposed to just him, having a direct involvement with the company. Now you have a third party who may have ulterior motives into decisions being made on whether or not the story is factual or not. So that's an important point I wanted to bring up. And just a separate point, talking about certain organizations wanting to report on things and it being suppressed. Obviously, everyone has their biases. People watch Fox News, people watch MSNBC, people watch CNN. Obviously CNN, they're a little biased in their aspect when it comes to President Trump. For up to them, they would probably just report on President Trump 24/7, which they probably do anyway. I don't watch it too much, but I have to do it for these stories here. But they do cover him a significant portion. Even though he's not the president anymore, it's still dominating the news cycle, even before the whole Mar-a-Lago raid and everything like that. That's why it's good to have, broad range of news that you intake every day. And that's what I try to do. I might have some biases, but, I try to report the news factually to you. But directed at Zuckerberg, not that he's going to watch this video, but if he does, like it or not, your company is a news outlet and a majority of Americans do get their news from you. So you need to have a little bit more accountability when it comes to your platform and, fact checking the news and not just being influenced by outside news outlets or people or governments. So speaking to having a diverse set of views when you're getting the media, Bill Maher had his show last night, Real Time with Bill Maher, and he went against everyone in the audience, seemed like, including his guest Rob Reiner and Senator Amy Klobuchar. And he railed against the conspiracy by media, big tech, to suppress Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020. Bill Maher, I do enjoy his show every time, from time to time. He's like a slow-moving glacier. He slowly gets it, but he's a little bit behind than, even the average person who doesn't really take in the news too much. But I give him props when he does good things. So, in this case, I agree with him. But so just looking at the news here, this is from Fox News. Real-time host Bill Maher blasted the widespread suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story during the 2020 presidential election. During Friday night's panel discussion, Maher highlighted the controversial comments made by liberal podcaster Sam Harris, who openly approved of the conspiracy to bury the brewing scandal that implicated then-candidate Joe Biden in order to defeat President Trump on Election Day. I would play the clip from Sam Harris, but that's not a good idea. So I'll just leave it there. Is it okay to have a conspiracy to get rid of Trump? Maher began. They were talking about Hunter Biden's laptop, which was a story, and now all the mainstream press has finally admitted it was a real story. It was a real laptop. So I want to play the clip from that because it was a very interesting exchange between Bill Maher and Rob Reiner, who's obviously a huge liberal, and he kind of gets owned in this a little bit, which I find hilarious. And I also noticed how quiet Senator Amy Klobuchar is during this whole exchange. Let me see if I can find the clip here. I think I have it pulled up. Okay, let's see here. And I'm going to, interject and cut in, so it's not just going to play the whole time. It's going to give you my thoughts as it goes on. So let's roll the clip here.
So Sam Harris says it was appropriate for Twitter and the heads of big tech and the heads of journalistic organizations to feel that they were in the presence of something that is a once-in-a-lifetime moral emergency, meaning Trump. So he's saying it's okay to have a conspiracy to get rid of somebody as bad as Trump. It's a little bit of a thorny question because once you go down this road, this is sort of where we are in this country. The other side is so evil, anything is justified in preventing them from taking office. Is it?
No. You know what's not justified? Using armed violence to try to kill people in the Capitol. That's not justified.
So just, he asks a question and then he just doesn't even answer it. Just a non-answer, just totally changes topic. But Bill Maher keeps pressing him.
This question. Answer this question.
What is the question?
Appropriate? The question is, was it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't follow this.
Saying you know for a fact that that's what they did? I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
What an own. And it's so true. It's so true. A lot of people on the left, I mean, they just get their news from one outlet, and they just keep telling them the same things over and over again. They just keep beating the same drum. And obviously Rob Reiner, he will say, oh, I watch Fox, but, obviously, if you didn't know about this by now, it's not entirely your fault, but Rob Reiner, he's going on a political show. He should do a little research if he's going to be on the show and try to, have talking points. If it's just some guy on the street, I wouldn't blame them if they didn't know, but Rob Reiner should know a little bit better.
Well, then you would know about this.
I do know about that.
Well, you're acting like you know.
I do know about that, and I do watch Fox, but the point is, we're going to prove now that the press tried to.
They're admitting it.
The press is admitting it.
Yes, that's not even an issue anymore. They're saying, yes, we basically did this because we didn't want this to throw the election. Yes?
I don't know that they've all said this, and I believe strongly
well, the New York
in the
Times
First
definitely
Amendment.
did.
My dad was a reporter. I believe in it. And I think you have to make sure that you're treating people fairly. But I think Rob's point here is that we are dealing with man who used to be the president right now, who literally tried to lead an armed insurrection. And that's why we're so focused on this right now.
All right, that's enough there. But you can see how Senator Amy Klobuchar, she just, also did the same thing that Rob Reiner did in the beginning and just deferred to Trump and, the whole January 6th thing. But, and then kept saying, oh, my dad's a reporter. Well, you should probably ask him again, see what he says now, because if the New York Times is pretty reputable, if they're coming out, other news outlets too, I think the Washington Post as well has come out and said that it was the Hunter Biden laptop is real. I mean, I do get it in a sense, but they just, the non-answers and the non-starters when Bill Maher presses at both of them on this, just shows you, their real thoughts and how they want to react to it. They can tell either they claim they don't know about it or they just change topic. So I just wanted to play that. It's very interesting that they went ahead and did this. Just in summary, it's very illuminating what Mark Zuckerberg revealed on Joe Rogan's podcast this week as to everything going on with the Hunter Biden laptop and the 2020 election. And I feel there's a great dichotomy in this country when it comes to how we get the news, how we view the news, and how we take it in. And, just main message, just, even if you have one side, just listen to the other side for a few minutes. You don't have to spend, hours and hours listening to Fox if you're on the left, or CNN if you're on the right, but just check in, just read a couple articles, even if you don't want to hear the people talking about it, just read an article or two. That's just my main message when it comes to that. And I just feel it's very interesting, everything going on with that. And obviously everything going on with Trump leading up to these midterms. Sure, I'll have a few more October surprises when it comes to all that stuff. So we'll see what happens there. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. You can find me on Twitter at Brian_Barsoon, on Rumble at BB_news, Instagram at Brian Barsoon, and on True Social at BrianBars89. Thank you for watching, and take care.